Hi there. Unlike my other videos, I'm going to start off with a disclaimer that this is just my own personal opinions, okay? Because I'm going to speak from the point of view of a programmer I've shipped multiple titles, AAA titles. And the only reason I bring that up is because I know with a certainty I can tell you that programmers do different things. Okay, so basically, this video is in reaction to what I keep seeing in various media, right? Like social media for DCS. So we could say like Reddit posts, what have you. And people keep saying that, oh, I don't want ED to work on any more modules. I want them to focus on gameplay updates. And you know what? I feel you. I feel you. I understand that you might want more updates. You might want more optimizations. I've even made a video where I feel like we use more buffs in VR. But now I'm gonna tell you this: these people, they don't know anything about what programmers do. They think that ED cannot do both in parallel. For one, check this out. Programmers, we do different things. You don't just have a programmer that I don't know if this is difficult to explain or not, but there's different types of programmers. You have AI programmers, you have graphics programmers, senior graphics programmers, and you have gameplay. And typically, well, I was about to say that typically your 3D graphics programmer, a lot of times a lot of places they want a senior developer because your senior developers, and I've done this before. I worked in this role. I worked at places where, to be clear, I worked in this role. I'm pretty much this at the moment, but it's that's kind of tricky. I'm doing slightly gameplay related stuff. But anyways, this video isn't about me. This video is about programmers do different things. That's just my main point. Let's just stick to that. So you have graphics programmer. Look, check this out. There's different requirements for this versus this avionics. Okay? And you can see here it's it's less experience than what they're looking for. And typically you want this, right? At the very least, you want for your graphics programmer to have experience in DirectX OpenGL, right? Or shader programming languages, which I've done. I think I've done both of these. For sure this one, HLSL. This one as well, actually. So anyways, I just want to focus on the fact that I keep seeing over and over people are like, oh, ED, Eco Dynamics, they can't work on both. They can't deliver modules and do gameplay updates. They can't do multi-core optimization. They think that programmers are interchangeable. We are not. Okay? We are not. Unless you're dealing with a generalist role. Now, like sometimes you have a generalist, right? And a generalist, they can do gameplay maybe one day, and then the next day they may be working on audio, and then the next day maybe they're working on graphics. But even when I was a journalist at one AAA at one studio, even when I worked at that role, I'll tell you, I wasn't even doing programming. I mean, graphics programming when I worked at that, when I was working in that capacity. And even then, actually, it depended on title to title. Okay, so on one title, I was helping out on gameplay, and then the next title, I was doing optimization and graphics. But that was for journalists. But that's not what they're hiring. But here, look, they're hiring for different roles. And I'm going to make sure I put this link. I'm going to link to this in the description here so you can check this out for yourself. You don't have to take my word for this. There's different types of engineers here. And that's just what I want to focus on. I keep seeing people are like, oh, and you see this with other, I suppose, sims and games where the masses, right, that doesn't know about programming, they think that we're interchangeable. But think about from the role of a company. You kind of, sure, you might want to have a jack of all trades, which is like a generalist role, but that's a jack of all trades. That might not be your expert in a certain specific area. Okay? Like, we're talking thousands and thousands of lines of code that's in these games. So, when you hire somebody in brand new, you want them to sort of, usually, no matter what, you want them to specialize on a specific system. So typically, how it works, you hire a programmer in for a role, and they work at that role. We'll go back here. They'll work at a specific role. Then maybe after a couple years or something, you let that programmer grow and branch out and do different things for the company. But typically, at the very beginning, you always want them to at least kind of specialize in a specific area. And this, as you can see, the requirements for this is completely different from this. Okay, and that's what I want to be clear. What, sorry if I'm not being clear, but it's just completely different skill sets here, and that's the main takeaway here. Completely different skill sets. Now we do share C++, right? One thing I'm surprised here, I'm not seeing math, but normally you want strong math for a graphics programmer. Like when I interviewed for this type of role, I got hit with math questions. Here we go. There we go. It's there, right? So here, math. Here, they're probably not focusing on math as much, right? But this guy, they want you to have math. So you see there's more requirements. Completely different skill set. I hope I made my point here. Completely different skill sets. And so our main takeaway here, game developers, they can focus on more than one thing, okay? You can have an engineer work on avionics for a new module or a previous module, current module, and you can have another guy working on optimization. Your same guy, your graphics program isn't going to be all of a sudden become an avionics engineer, okay? And all of a sudden start doing avionics. They're just slightly different things you're going to be, there's differences in between the roles here. So typically companies, of course, there's there's completely different skill sets here. So typically my point is, which I've already said before, is you want specialists. You want a number of specialists at your company, and it's okay, to have your generalists. And a lot of times you might hire in somebody that does gameplay, something that's less requirements, and you might grow them into this. Or you might grow, you might have a principal engineer that can cross and do everything. But normally you don't have a whole lot of principals at a company. You just don't. So, anyways, it is that just I hope I make my point here. You can have different programmers doing different things, different skill sets. It doesn't mean that if you have an engineer working on one thing that all of a sudden your graphics engineer isn't going to be doing updates. Okay? Hope my point is clear. I hope everybody got my message here, got my point. Thank you. Have a good day.